Thunberg, let me ask you a question. If you're sailing across the ocean and you're picking up trash along the way, and for every one piece of trash that you pick up, there's a boat right next to you dumping out 5 pieces, how would that make you feel?
If you use that logic, then I am also dumping a lot of trash in the ocean. And then I would stop dumping my trash in the ocean and tell the other boat to stop dumping their trash in the ocean as well.
And that's the important point here. I think that what we need to be doing is we need to be focusing on the countries that are dumping trash in the ocean. Of course, that's a metaphor. The fact that China is, here we are talking about reducing emissions, yet China, under the Paris Accords, are going to be increasing their emissions by nearly 50%, 5 gigatons annually. So while in the United States we need to continue investing in innovative solutions and exporting clean energy technologies, it makes no sense for us to be doing it if we're simply watching for increases in China.
I have a question. When your children ask you, did you do absolutely everything in your power to stop the climate crisis, when the storms are getting worse and we're seeing all of the effects of the climate crisis, when they ask you, did you do everything? Can you really look them in the eye and say, no, sorry, I couldn't do anything because that country over there didn't do anything, so if they're not going to do it, then I'm not? That is shameful, and that is cowardly. And so I just don't understand, as a parent, how can you look your kid in the eye and say, there's this impending crisis, everything is at stake, but I stood back and I didn't really do anything, I didn't take action, I didn't act like it was an emergency because our neighbors over there weren't doing it, so I'm just not going to. How can you tell your children that?
I think I don't need to add anything, but just another perspective. I am from Sweden, it's a small country, and there it is the same argument. Why should we do anything? Just look at the US, they say. So just so you know, that is being used against you as well.
Mr. Summers, did you realize back several months ago at an oversight hearing, I asked Ms. Greta Thunberg, who is a spokesman, for the Green New Deal and other issues the Democrats have. She has 17.9 million followers. I asked her, with China and India, how are we going to get them to cut their emissions when they're the leaders in the world and America has come down on emissions? Do you realize she said they were going to ask them to? Is this a proper response, in your opinion?
Thank you, Congressman, for your question. As you know, the United States accounts for about 12.6% of world emissions, and our emissions continue to go down year on year. China's emissions account for about 32.6% of world emissions, and their emissions continue to go up. The key point is that, yes, climate change is real, and that we need to step up to the plate and do what we can to address the climate challenge. But at the same time, this is a global challenge. This isn't a challenge that can be taken on just by one company or by one country. We need a global solution to the climate challenge. But this industry has not waited for others to step up to the plate to deal with that challenge. In fact, earlier this year, the American Petroleum Institute put forward a very forward-looking position on climate change in API's Climate Action Framework. And the interesting thing about that framework, Congressman, is that it's not just about what we're asking the government to do, but what the industry is committing to do to reduce climate change over time. And we're proud of that forward-looking agenda. But as you point out, this is a global challenge, and the world's going to continue to demand oil and gas for the future. The question I think lawmakers have to answer is whether the world's going to get that oil and gas from the United States, where it is produced cleaner, better, and safer, or whether they're going to get that oil and gas from countries that are hostile to American interests. I think the answer is clear from our perspective.
And this administration is content to get our natural gas and oil, as Mr. Jordan said, and paying ungodly amounts in the future if we can get gas from countries that don't like us. Does that make sense to you?
Congressman, thank you again for your question.
Does that make sense?
No, sir.
No, and nor does Greta Thunberg's answer, which was a Pollyannish answer saying, yes, we will ask them to be nice. It does not make sense. Mr. Summers, isn't it true that most of the raw materials and manufacturing capacity for renewables necessary to execute Biden's zero emissions goal comes from China?
That is the case, Congressman.
And does China's ability to manufacture renewables cheaply have anything to do with the fact that their factories are powered by oil and gas, or that their economy runs on 84% fossil fuels?
Congressman, the Chinese economy continues to expand not just oil and gas infrastructure, but in fact, based on the data that we've seen, China is adding a coal plant a week. Their emissions continue to go up while American emissions continue to go down, mainly because the United States has made a fuel switch from coal as the primary source of power to natural gas. And that is because natural gas prices have gotten lower as a consequence of the technological and innovative revolution that occurred in this country over the course of the last decade. We're able to find more of this energy here at home. And as a consequence of that, we've been actually able to reduce emissions even while our production is going up. In fact, no country in the world has reduced emissions more than the United States. And it's because of the American oil and gas industry.
And China is not being held to the same emission standards that we are. Yet the Biden administration and the questions you've had don't even address this. They are content to buy from countries that don't like us and let Americans suffer as they pay for not just gas, but every other commodity that they're trying to buy now. I now yield to Congressman Fox.
Americans are watching this hearing today, and I'm glad we're having it, because this is some of the most outlandish testimony I've witnessed yet in 6 years in this oversight committee room. It's stunning. I'm not quite sure. I mean, with all due respect to our panelists today, I'm not quite sure some of you are connected to reality. So I'm going to, Ms. Salter, ma'am, good lady, please prepare your mind, because I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I'm going to give you most of my time. I think it's good that America hears what you have to say. If you had control of the world, ma'am, if you did, I mean, you're presenting these grand ideas about eliminating fossil fuel and the horrors of the oil and gas industry and the energy that we consume to run the world and uplift the economic potential and prosperity of the world, which is the single most significant factor that connects the prosperity of our citizenry worldwide is economic opportunity, and energy drives that. But here you go. Let me just ask you, what would you do? I have 3 questions, so try and keep your answers within 30 or 40 seconds, please. What would you do with petrochemical products? Like everything you have, your clothes, your glasses, the car you got here on, your phone, the table you're sitting at, the chair, the carpet under your feet, everything you've got is petrochemical products. What would you do with that? Tell the world.
If I had that power in the world, actually, I don't need that power, because what I would do is ask you, sir, from Louisiana.
I'm giving you the power. You're presenting.
To search you, sir, from Louisiana, to search your heart and understand why the EPA knows that toxic petrochemical facilities are some of the most toxic, polluting facilities in the world and are killing black people throughout Louisiana.
Okay,
so my first thing would be you to search your heart and ask your God what you are doing to the black and
our
poor
God. I
people
make no apologies
in
about
Louisiana.
that.
That would be my first thing to ask.
Let's just have one at a time so that we can.
It's my time, Mr. Chairman. If I reclaim my time, I shall. I'm going to give this young lady an opportunity. You might not like it, but America needs to hear it. You've got no answer, do you, young lady, about what to do with petrochemical products, so I'll move on. What are you going to do with ocean-going vessels? What do you do with the maritime industry?
Well, we could, again, I would ask you to search your heart for what is happening on
You
the coast
have no answers
of
for this
Louisiana.
stuff.
Of course we
Like,
do.
you-
We
you-
need to
you
move
stand on
away
this
from
grandiose
petrochemicals.
statement.
We need to shut down the petrochemical facilities in your state and move
The
away
world
from
won't run.
plastic. We need
The
to move
world
away
won't
from
function.
it.
You
And
couldn't
there
be here.
are
It's insane.
It is-
What would you do with the aviation
the only
industry?
thing that would not function is the petrochemical industry in your state, sir.
Do you care about the planet, good lady? Like, do you have ecological concern for real? Like, from a biblical perspective, we were given, the Lord gave us dominion over the planet and the creatures thereof. Now, the original translations of dominion means to care for and nurture. So from a biblical perspective, I am an environmental